We have something to show you.
All that matters is fighting the dead.
If they get past the wall and we're squabbling amongst ourselves, we're finished.
Hey everybody, big surprise. They just released a bunch of production bombs about Season 8. So they're rolling into actual production, like they'll physically start working on episodes in October in a couple weeks. A couple of you have even messaged me saying that you've spotted Peter Dinklage in Belfast. That's just because the actors are slowly making their way back to set. But they released all this fascinating information about who the directors are going to be. They basically brought back the greatest hits in terms of directors and what the budget is going to be for each of the episodes. And it gives us a pretty good idea of what they'll be able to do in terms of stuff that they've cut out in previous seasons, aka direwolves. So if you're finding me for the first time, be sure to subscribe to get everything. I do Game of Thrones every week. There's even a DVD giveaway that's happening that I'll explain at the end of the video. So the biggest thing first, Dan and Dave took the last episode to direct themselves. It makes sense, they spent so much time developing the series before they ever shot the first pilot.
We had this great opportunity when HBO decided to pick up the series, despite all the problems with the pilot. We got a chance to go back and rewrite it, and ended up reshooting a great deal of the pilot.
And the rest was history, so it would make sense that they would be all hands on deck, devoting 100% of their time, both themselves, to making sure that everything ended the way they wanted it to end. But there are only 2 other directors that are dividing up all the other episodes, so there's 6 episodes total, and they brought back their superstar, Miguel Sapochnik, and David Nutter, who's also a superstar in his own right. So Miguel Sapochnik shot The Gift, Hard Home, Battle of the Bastards, and Winds of Winter. He didn't come back during Season 7 because of some scheduling conflicts, but he's basically done the last couple of seasons worth of the biggest episodes that they've had. They've been hyping up the idea that each of the final episodes will be feature-length, meaning that it'll be longer than an hour, and it'll be, in terms of scope, scale, big battles, big action set pieces, lots of CG, without sparing any expense. This is actually him talking about his big episodes from Season 6.
Luckily, we got Miguel Sapochnik back, who was our maestro from Hard Home in Season 5.
That was basically a massacre. This is a battle. This is the story of a battle. We've never done that before.
They really wanted to kind of get into the mindset of what it would be like to be in a battle like that.
If the name David Nutter isn't familiar to you, he started directing episodes back during Season 2, and he's sort of a superstar in his own right. He's actually directed all the pilots for all the DC TV shows. He did a lot of the classic X-Files. His resume is super long. He's been around a little bit longer than Miguel Sapochnik, but you kind of get the idea from this, is that they're bringing back their biggest feature quality directors. Like if they're going to make each of these episodes feel like a movie in its own right within the season, then you want a director that can handle that scope and scale. Like a lot of people feel like there were a couple episodes during Season 7 that really delivered on big action set pieces. The visuals were amazing, but some of the characters got lost in the shuffle, especially with the way they weave the story. Just jumping forward in time every chance they got. So the important thing when you do stuff like that is not to lose the characters, and all these people that they got to do the final episodes are really good at that. So I'm actually really optimistic that the final episodes will be as good as you would want them to be. But even though I think that's the more important news that they dropped today, the even bigger idea is that the budget for each of the final 6 episodes is $15 million. The going rate for like the really, really expensive TV shows that you hear about Netflix producing is closer to $10 million. Way back in the early seasons, they only had closer to $6 million. Then they got that bumped up to $8 million. Then you got to Season 6 and they wanted to do big episodes like Battle of the Bastards. Like I included that behind the scenes clip. That took a little bit more, so they slowly got the budget bumped up above $10 million, and then obviously, because things got so crazy with the dragons this past season, and they want to take that even further without having to cut other stuff out, like they cut the direwolves out because of budgetary reasons, they upped that to $15 million. So that is freaking crazy, even though there are probably television shows that have spent more money in total when you consider all the episodes. This final season of Game of Thrones will technically be the most expensive season of all time. And like I said, that just translates to more episodes on the scale of Hard Home and Battle of the Bastards, where you have a lot of extras, a lot of animals, like you have a lot of horses. Like they say they always had to pick between doing a giant and doing the direwolves. That was the big reason during Battle of the Bastards, is because they wanted to do the giant and they had to pick one or the other. And then probably the most expensive thing that I'm expecting them to try is aerial dragon battles. So even doing a couple dragons for a couple minutes on screen is super expensive for them, like during episode 6. But imagine you have Jon Snow and Daenerys both riding Rhaegal and Drogon, fighting the Night King on Viserion. So you have 3 dragons going at each other at the same time. And in order to make that look amazing, you're going to have to spend a dump truck of money. And we're not talking about like 2 seconds and then the fight's over. We're talking a prolongated aerial dragon battle so amazing that it will burn your eyes out of their sockets. You may not realize it too, because the budget was so much smaller, even though $6 million is a shit ton of money to spend on an episode of television. During the Blackwater episode, they said that they almost had to skip that battle altogether. No wildfire, nothing, because they almost didn't have the money to do it, but HBO ponied up a little bit extra for them. The other funny example is when Tyrion's in full armor at the Battle of Greenfolk and Bronn's like, stay low, and he gets knocked out as he's rushing into battle, and they use it from his perspective as a way to skip the battle entirely and save the money that it would have taken to actually shoot that. So I feel like really the biggest thing here, obviously, sort of tease like the big action set pieces, having big crowd shots like this with a lot of actual actors, the aerial dragon battles, but I think people will be most happy to see them use this extra money to bring the direwolves back, the ones that are still alive. That obviously means that when they go back to Winterfell, we get to have scenes with Ghost. Ghost gets to meet Daenerys and even funnier, the dragons. That'll be an interesting scene. Ghost versus Drogon. We'll just see how that works out. And then, like we should have seen these last couple of seasons, he can take Ghost into battle. Like he should have been at the Battle of the Bastards helping Jon Snow fight. The other bonus is that they could do the super pack that George R. Martin has been teasing from the book, so Nymeria could come back with a giant horde of regular wolves. She's the only direwolf in that pack, though. It's her running around the Riverlands like we saw when Arya met up with her during Season 7 with a whole bunch of wolves. We only saw a small snapshot of it here. If you're a big fan of the actors in real life too, it's not necessarily Game of Thrones news, but Kit Harington supposedly got engaged to Rose Leslie, so he's actually marrying Ygritte in real life. So very happy for him. Hopefully it all works out.
I should have stayed in that cave.
We'll go back there.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
But here's my big question for you guys. Now that we know that they have $15 million per episode, where do you want them to have big battles? Obviously, there has to be one at Winterfell because that's where the Army of the Dead is marching. But it just makes me feel like they do have the money to take the Army of the Dead, the Night King, with Viserion down to King's Landing, even though I think most of the bigger battles will take place up in the north. So what'll happen is I'll do a new Q&A video in a couple days, so just leave all your questions you want me to include for that in the comments. Congratulations to the latest giveaway winner, Leon. Please private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. All you have to do to enter the giveaway is just be a subscriber, leave a comment on the video. I'll announce a new winner when I post that new Game of Thrones video. But you can click here to learn all about the Valyrian swords on the TV show in Season 8, and you can click here for brand new Rick and Morty. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.